Hi everyone, welcome to today's webinar brought to you by Trintech and Controllers Council. My name is Kelly Shevlin and I'll be your host for today. The title of today's webinar is How to Leverage Financial Close Automation to Work Smarter. Before we get started, there are a couple of pieces of housekeeping I'd like to go over. Firstly, please note that the lines are on mute to cut down on any background noise. However, you can send through any questions or comments as we go along through the webinar today through the chat or Q&A functionalities on the right-hand side of your screen. At the end of the hour, we should have some time to go over a few of these, so just feel free to send those through whenever you have them. Finally, just so you know, we are recording today's webinar session and we will send out an email after the event with a copy of the recording in case you'd like to view it again later. And with that, I'd like to introduce our speakers for today, Christy Jacks from Trintech and Jennifer Bucher from Ruby Slipper Café, who will take us through today's presentation. Christy, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Kelly. My name is Christy Jacks, Vice President of Operations and Data Analytics in the mid-market here at Trintech. My background, I was a controller as well as in FP&A in various mid-market companies. And while I've been here at Trintech, I've actually implemented our ADRA product inside of our accounting team, as well as helped numerous customers with their implementations across North America. So with that, we'll get started today. In half a century, the CFO has transformed from a tactical, number-crunching, budget-developing role into a strategic financier and partner. And now the voice of the CFO is as important as the CEO, as both internal and external audiences look to the C-suite executive as a voice of guidance in times of economic uncertainty to lead the organization into the future. CFOs today have a whole new set of focus points and problems to overcome. So during today's discussion, we'll explore the following topics: challenges faced by today's CFOs, new expectations for our CFOs, how CFOs can lead organizations into the future. The office of the CFO is increasingly essential to any organization. Business-critical insights that are utilized by every department originate in the Office of Finance. So it's up to the CFO to not only effectively lead finance and accounting teams, but to deliver those insights and also fulfill other responsibilities as well. So let's begin with some of the challenges faced by today's CFOs. According to a BDO CFO Outlook survey administered to CFOs across several industries, one of the biggest identified threats to an organization is data security. The consequences of a privacy breach, especially with financial information, are not only limited to the company's reputation, but can potentially cost several $1 million in fines. So while safeguarding financial data against breaches is crucial, new regulatory standards have emerged from data privacy and cybersecurity threats. And it can be difficult for organizations to keep up with these as well. An adaptation to these regulations also introduces budget concerns and deep research dives into the safety of the newer platforms such as the cloud. So filling knowledge gaps and pivoting the F&A department to factor in these concerns is one of the top challenges CFOs now face. Financial compliance is always on a CFO's radar, whether they lead a publicly traded company or privately owned corporation. Spreadsheets, one of the most commonly used tools in the financial reporting process, are not the most reliable because they're prone to human error. In fact, according to a study, up to 90% of all spreadsheets contain errors. I've personally witnessed that several times. And because of this, spreadsheets have been the root cause of many of the most infamous, impactful accounting errors. The continued reliance on spreadsheets not only presents risk to the future of the organization, but also jeopardizes a CFO's own reputation. However, if you're uncertain about the integrity of your financial data, you're not alone. In a recent survey of global financial leaders, 40% admitted they didn't trust the accuracy of their financial data. In that same survey, 69% of respondents said they relied on spreadsheets to plaster over gaps in their reporting process, gaps that were most likely created from the usage of spreadsheets in the first place. Understandably, every CFO wants absolute certainty their numbers are accurate before presenting their reporting to the board's other stakeholders and governing bodies. In times of crisis and insecurity, everyone, including internal staff, C-suite executives, investors, and other stakeholders, looks to the office of the CFO for financial guidance and reassurance. This has never been more true as it was this past year during the COVID-19 pandemic. The COVID-19 pandemic exposed outdated systems that weren't able to be adapted for changing needs. Unfortunately, for some companies, the pandemic also created a resource crisis with people and/or cash, which is unfortunately impacting very important decisions. It also impacts the investments that they need to make. So as many of us know, historically, the finance function has been an underappreciated area of the business. But because of this pandemic, it is now widely understood how critical this function is to the overall health of the organization. And that's been the sort of silver lining in all of this. Before the organization falls prey to an unexpected change, whether that change occurs due to the internal or external forces, the CFO needs to evaluate and determine whether their financials are adequate to see the organization through a crisis. This includes documenting processes, evaluating process efficiency and effectiveness, and strategizing contingency plans so that if a crisis occurs, the CFO is prepared to rise to the challenge of keeping the organization afloat. Now that we have talked through the challenges, let's look at some of the newer expectations for the CFO.